In this video, I will share my views as to why I think humans are still better than AI at 3D modeling. Let's have a look. 3D modeling has evolved rapidly over the years, with tools like Houdini, Unreal Engine, Blender, Cinema 4D, and others at the forefront of these creative enablers for artists all around the world. Yet the question remains, how does AI fit into all of this? And is the argument fair when you see comments like this all over the internet? Let's have a look at how all this fits into the current state of the 3D industry, and why I think human creativity continues to hold its ground, even if AI is here to stay. Side note, I will be primarily discussing this topic using the tool I am most familiar with, which is Blender, from the perspective of a 3D printing enthusiast, and sharing my opinions on why I think the human creativity still wins. So firstly, let's look at the many ways to create models in Blender. There are a couple of ways you can create a model in Blender: poly modeling, sculpting, procedural modeling, and more. Poly modeling. Personally, I prefer poly modeling as it gives me the most control, especially for parts that have some technical mechanics. For instance, if you want to create a hinge design, an articulated model, joint models, and lock-in pieces, you could do so with millimeter levels of accuracy. Poly modeling allows the modeler to have total control of the printed parts, and helps to avoid print tolerance issues that could result from variations in materials, layer thickness, and other factors. Sculpting. While I'm not the best at it, I use sculpting to create detailed models like alien creatures, busts, figurines, and others that do not require separate parts or joints, or aesthetic designs like home planners, decorative items, among others. Sculpting has many tools that make your way life easier compared to creating something from scratch. Use poly modeling or other techniques. However, sculpted meshes are very dense and do not have proper topology. Therefore, they are often retopologized back to polygons or triangles, depending on if the artist wants to use it for purposes other than 3D printing or static rendering. Procedural modeling. Procedural modeling is another great time saver and very dynamic. Procedural tools allow you to input values or use sliders to adjust and create without having to mess up something destructively. It is also known as non-destructive modeling. As for most parts, artists can simply tweak the available values or sliders to make adjustments without massively changing the model. It is great for motion graphics, animating stuff like fractals, mathematical shapes, symmetrical designs, or chaotic aesthetic shapes. However, it does have a steep learning curve, as it often uses a node network or parameters inside of modifiers or geometry nodes. For this method, there aren't many tutorials that show you how to model something specific and would require you to learn through a lot of hands-on approach of trials and errors. Personally, I do not use procedural modeling as much. However, depending on the need of my designs, I find that it has great potential to be unlocked. AI generators. Now, I know this is a controversial topic and my stance may invite a conversation here. Personally, I am not a fan of easy work, and AI-generated models fall into that category for me. There are various sites like Rodin AI, Meshy, 3DCM, and some others I have tested as well. Currently, even Bamboo Labs' official printing platform has an AI generator that works pretty well for replicating simple designs for free. However, its limitations include not being able to generate objects or environments effectively. Personally, I oppose using AI in any of my works directly, as it goes against my principles of originality. I don't mind using them as a brainstorming tool, going back and forth with language models to create visual concepts or inspiration for a base scene composition. In the past, I used to do the same using PureRef, where I would look at a bunch of real-world examples to understand the mood, angle, and imperfections, or use my own drawings in Photoshop to sketch out rough scene composition. So let's do a quick dive into the specifics of why I think the current AI models are still poop. AI generators. Limitations and challenges. Let's explore how good AI generators currently are and why human artists remain relevant. Perspective issues. AI generators struggle with generating models from different perspectives. For instance, concept art of side view, top view, or slightly angled characters, environments, and structures often don't work well. They tend to warp and distort and vary greatly from technically challenging models. Art direction. Most of the clients are only willing to pay you if you meet their expected result tailored to their preference. For instance, the models provided by AI firstly very inaccurate and do a lot of guesswork, which requires an experienced 3D artist to solve the issues and make manual changes. The process of deriving that result and trying to customize or make edits is oftentimes easier if you just remodeled it from scratch than to try and edit an AI-generated 3D model, which segues us to the next point. Unoptimized models. Generated models are not optimized for remodeling or further editing. The current state of generation seems to have come a long way from what it was like at the start of last year, and details often look good to an unexperienced eye. However, in most cases, they're either poorly patched together quads, leading to manifold errors, or weird bumps when using it for 3D printing or imported to a 3D program. While some slicers can repair the models with a few clicks, they aren't always the best fix. Texturing problems. AI models sometimes splash baked textures to compensate for a lack of fine detail. For example, models might look detailed with textures on but lose quality when textures are turned off. Basically, the generators tend to compensate by splashing a 2D image on top of poorly made details. Here are a few examples I have generated for the sake of this tutorial. As you can see in this case, without the texture, it is almost as poop as a poop, and when you turn it to side view, you can see what it tried to do. 5. Limited in animation. AI-generated models aren't really suitable for animators or production, which work through large pipelines in the industry. It might be a gimmicky play toy for an enthusiast, but in order to do anything with it, it would require them to have a fairly intermediate skill to start with. Even if some of these newer 3D model generators allow template animations, they're limited to simple cycles and lack flexibility. Manually adding bones or geometry adjustments becomes tedious, and lack of better edge flow, strategic loop cut positioning would allow for a pretty pooped up movement. Let's see the counter-argument in case of AI. Although I avoid using AI tools for creating models, I've seen a gradual shift of 3D artists being open to implementing them in some of their workflow. I recognized a few areas that some artists might be using them in. Concept visualization, using AI tools for generating basic level visual composition, basic proportional allocation of characters, and observing scene depth. This is very much in the realms of Gaussian splatting and photogrammetry territory. 2. Sculpting enhancements. Some 3D artists seem to use AI-generated base meshes as a starting point for sculpting, allowing them to refine, add details, and customize models efficiently. A serious sculptor would probably save a lot of time not having to block out base meshes. 3. Background elements. AI-generated models can work well for objects or characters that appear far in the background of a scene. These can save hours of modeling for elements that aren't the main focus. For example, in this render, I purposely used AI-generated characters as background interest, kind of like Easter eggs, since you can see they are not of good quality. I had rendered this scene at 2K resolution with 344 samples on a render farm. The characters were barely distinguishable, but helped fill some void areas in the scene quickly. 4. Likeness generation. AI generators seem to assist some of the artists with achieving likeness and character models, a notoriously difficult task for sculptors, especially around the faces. Recently, I had watched this video of a man trying to use AI bust generator to create Superman, and all I can say is that it did a pretty decent job. I can see how sculptors might use these types of AI as a starting point to save time while retaining creative control. This again is not far from photogrammetry or Gaussian splatting. Another 2 techniques I find myself hard to accept in my workflows, even though they are pretty much standard practice nowadays, with even the top people in the 3D community using them. Anyhow, that's all from me in this video, and I hope I can find some more knowledge in the comment section from people who have delved deeper, and feel free to share your feelings about AI or any of these topics. Thank you for watching.